At FIE, we're not just
students
and faculty.
We're not only learners
and lecturers.
We are expanding minds,
Expanding futures.
We're redefining the classroom.
We are life-changing.
eye-opening. We are a community
Driven by our values.
That wants you.
you.
Yes, you.
To join.
Hello and welcome to In the Field, a podcast from FIE, where we will be exploring all things study abroad. I'm Dr. Heidi James Dunbar, writer in residence and faculty, and I will be your host. In this episode, we're exploring a unique two-country program that examines one of the most pressing global issues of our time, migration. Centered in Seville, Spain, and Rabat in Morocco, the Borders, Mobility and Migration Europe and the MENA program gives students the opportunity to explore the economic, political and humanitarian dimensions of migration across Europe, the Middle East and North Africa region. Through an interdisciplinary approach that brings together political science, sociology, anthropology and history, students not only learn in the classroom, but also step into the field. They visit NGOs, meet with local experts, and take part in cultural excursions that bring the human stories of migration to life. From studying labour and migration in the MENA region to understanding immigration in Spain and Europe, this programme encourages critical reflection on identity, borders, and belonging in our interconnected world. I'll be talking with three people who are instrumental in creating this programme: Dr Julie Andreshak, our Chief Academic Officer and Provost at FIE, Arturo Jarque, FIE's Resident Director in Spain, and Dr Elena Corbett, Senior Director for Academic Engagements at Amideast. We'll learn how the programme combines academic rigour with immersive experiences and why studying migration in both Spain and Morocco offers such a powerful lens into global movement today. To begin the conversation, I spoke with Dr Julie Andreshak to ask what inspired the creation of this two-country programme and why Spain and Morocco specifically.
Yeah, I think there have been a number of different inspirations. I suppose on the face of it, there are two countries with so many interconnections. We have, the Arabs in Spain for something like 800 years. So, the history goes way, way back. I think just looking at really the map of the two countries, I love maps. And you look at the fact that these two countries nearly touch each other, eight miles or something across the Strait of Gibraltar separating them. You can see one country from the other on a clear day. And it just goes on from there. The influence of the Arab language on the Spanish language, the history, culture, even now the economic connections between the two countries, I think, just really set themselves up for an opportunity to take a look at migration through a particular lens in the Mediterranean. Not to mention, it's a wonderful, both countries are wonderful. They're both culturally rich. They're exciting, warm places. I mean, warm in terms of the people as well as the climate. And I think really what we wanted to do was create a framework for students to understand migration as a phenomenon through multiple disciplines, and to hopefully move away from simply focusing on migration as the media do or as politicians might use it in various countries. But of course, it's a global phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that has no limits in terms of time. I mean, since written history, but since prehistory, people have moved, and that's really what is at the core of migration. And the both the push and the pull, all the motivations, the reasons that migration is happening, and has happened, the impacts on where people are coming from, and also where they're going. I think also what makes the dynamic between Spain and Morocco quite interesting, and interesting to use as a case study, is the fact that I think most people, if you ask them, they would assume that what we'd be talking about is Moroccans or anyone from North Africa going to Europe, going to Spain, and that it's just that one direction, but it is actually multi-directional. So within Morocco, you have kind of south migration. So you have people from sub-Saharan Africa, and again, there's a long history of this, going to North Africa, whether that's to settle there or to access Europe. And so there's a whole narrative there. And within Spain, of course, in the last several decades, there's a considerable amount of movement as well. The Spaniards going to other places in the European Union and further afield. And the motivating factors are universal in a sense: economics, jobs, social connections, and there's really quite a fluid picture. There's a dynamic picture, and as I said, as a case study, I think it's really, really rich. Yet we can just keep moving that lens further and further out. Look at regionally, and the program that we've devised will look at kind of the phenomenon from a regional point of view. But as I said, it's global and it's timeless. I think some of the other ways in which this program, I hope, will enlighten and inspire students, and anyone really involved in the program, has to do with the fact that when you're on the ground in a study abroad experience, you have the opportunity, and the opportunities will be supported on both sides of the program, to actually talk to individuals who are integral to the migration dialogue. So whether that's undocumented migrants, whether that's people who may have migrated voluntarily, the charities that might support migration, people in different political positions, so on and so forth. But in talking to people who are actually involved with these migration processes, I think you start to understand that it's not just simply, as I already mentioned, about kind of what the media might say about migration currently, and what does that mean? Well, they tend to frame migrants as either the villains in the story, criminals in societies, or perhaps the heroes or victims. And I think when you're able to meet individual people who are migrants, individuals who are involved in supporting them, then you have a very different picture, and you start to see it for what it is, which is, as I said, this process that has always taken place, and does transform societies.
To understand the interdisciplinary complexities Dr. Andreshak describes there, I spoke with Arturo Jarque, who shared how political science, sociology, anthropology, and history intersect in the program.
The reasons behind current migratory movements are specifically from Morocco to Spain and complex and usually involve more than just one cause. A first approach would tell us that there are two main factors for people making this decision to migrate: economic and political. However, in some cases, cultural and social factors are very important as well. Economics, politics, sociology, and anthropology are very related when talking about migratory movements. It is a compendium of factors, all of them very connected, that force the force that makes people migrate. All in all, migrants just want to have the opportunity to improve their lives and their relatives. It is a common thinking, both in the so-called developed countries and in the so-called developing countries. We all want to have the same opportunities, just to have a better life. It is the same thing for everyone. The only big difference is that because of many different circumstances, some people may improve their lives in the countries they live in, and some others must move to a different country. Politics shows us how some countries establish restrictions or issues political measures that try to prevent migrants coming to the destination countries. On the other hand, there are other countries, and Spain, I think, is a very example of it, that have a different approach. This approach has into account humanitarian reasons, without forgetting the economic ones. In any case, migrants may have better treatment depending on current politics on the respective countries. The Spanish government is almost the only government in Europe that defends the role of migrants in the growing and development of our countries and promote their integration based on rights in our societies. Spanish government has initiated a process of regularization. Around 500,000 migrants in Spain that may prove that they have been in our country for 5 months until the end of 2025 will be eligible to obtain residence and work permits. This measure will last until June 2025, when it is expected that the European Union establish a common policy on migration for all countries that form the European Union. Also, from an anthropological point of view, migrants maintain somehow their ways of life, at the same time that they adapt to their new environments. Culture, language, and religion play an important role as these migrants maintain them and adapt to their new social and cultural realities. If they feel that they are not accepted, they will question the new reality and probably will react in a negative way. On the contrary, if these migrants are treated with respect and they share the same rights as locals, they will see their new cultural environment more positively. It is a very difficult transition, though, as we all know. If we take a look at history, we will reach the conclusion that migration has been and is part of our daily lives, independently of the historical period we think of. One important thing, and people should look at this very closely. Most of the great changes that have happened in human history have been produced by migratory movements.
I then spoke with Dr. Corbett and asked what we hope students take away from the combination of coursework, NGO site visits, and cultural excursions.
so much in terms of this program specifically. I think we really have a unique opportunity um, through this lens of migration to learn deeply about two contemporary societies. And those two contemporary societies have very deep historical ties and experience of the movement of peoples, both through them and between them, and on account of each other, right? The actions and agency of each one, having direct impact on the other. You can look at that in a pre-modern sense. You can look at that, in terms of European colonialism. You can look at that throughout, in terms of both countries' 20th century history. And by, for instance, Spain's position as a Mediterranean member of the European Union and Morocco's position as a critical member of the Euromed zone, right? Which has direct impact on, on trade, on economic integration, and, Morocco's very specific role in a broader European context of migration. What I love about this program, right, and what it potentially offers, and in what it can engage students, is it really gives us a unique chance for the bidirectionality of knowledge, and this is something I greatly appreciate about FIE and the long-running partnership that we've had with FIE. This is our second program. I think this partnership has been at least a decade and a half in the running, maybe longer at this point. And whether it is like the Dublin and Jordan program that focuses on conflict and peace, or whether it's this program, this new program between Spain and Morocco, I appreciate that FIE has created a situation where voices of the global South, for lack of using a better word here, right, and voices of the are equal in positionality to voices of the global North, right? We have a study abroad context that is so UK and Europe focused, and this really programs like this that FIE has collaborated on with us, really seek to overturn that. There's something fundamentally very wrong about a world where we go to Europe to study refugees from the global South, but we never go to the global South, right? And to immerse ourselves in other voices, the critically important voices in this larger kind of global conversation. And so in terms of, I think, there, in terms of what students get out of it, right, there are short-term things, right, which, obviously one of them is this gives you a unique opportunity. We are plunking you into Morocco to study this very complex phenomenon of migration that touches literally everything, and gives you an opportunity to really interact with all of the different components of the host community that you're going to be with, right? That in itself is very unique. You're going to a place that most American students, most American undergraduates are not going to. Right? And the knowledge is coming from that host community. That's so critical to us. In the longer term, what do we want students to take out of it? I mean, all of us who work in this field know that so much of the learning comes later. Right? It's one thing when you're plunked down in it, and okay, you've got 4 weeks in Morocco and you're going to have a wonderful time, and there are going to be things that are difficult, and it's all of your senses are heightened and you're learning so much, but it's when you go home. It's the weeks after, the years after, the lifetime, right? That comes after that, in which you're still learning. So ultimately, what we want, the impact that we would like to see from this opportunity, and I think in the education abroad business, we all, for various reasons, some of which are beyond our control, we don't do a great job following up with our alumni years and years and years later, right? There are lots of those kinds of relationships, vying for their time, right? And so we struggle a lot. But, down the road, 10 years from now, for the students who are going on this program, did they make choices they wouldn't have made otherwise because they went on this program? Did they advocate for someone or something 20 years from now? And it could have nothing to do necessarily directly with this program or migration or Morocco or Spain or anything else. But did they advocate for something on the basis of something that they experienced with this program? Did they make career choices? Did they change an attitude? Do they, does it change how they approach certain things in a conversation? That's the impact we want. It's hard to measure, but that's the impact we're always going for.
I then asked how the optional Arabic language extension in Rabat deepens the academic and personal learning experience.
You don't have to come with any Arabic experience to do the Arabic language extension. And in fact, a lot of because we do a similar Arabic language extension in Jordan with the Conflict and Peace program that we do in collaboration with FIE. And most of those students have never studied Arabic before in their lives. And you might say, well, how much am I going to learn in one 4-week Arabic language program? People tell you Arabic is so hard, it's so hard to learn, all this sort of stuff. I mean, yes, and in 4 weeks, we teach Arabic in a blended way, right? Which means, Arabic is known for being a diglossic language, right? So there's the modern standard Arabic, that form of the language that is part of contemporary usage, but then each country within countries, village to village, there are these colloquial forms of the language that are spoken. Some people will sort of say, well, they're not written. We do see them written, and that's its own sort of that's a whole other podcast, Heidi. But in teaching blended Arabic in 4 weeks, sure, we're going to be teaching you the alphabet. We're going to be teaching you, what we have to teach you in 4 weeks of modern standard Arabic, but we teach it with Moroccan Darija, right? You will come out of that, even if you never take Arabic again. We hope you do, right? We hope you do. Or you can take French, or you can take any indigenous language, but you will come out of that 4 weeks being able to communicate some things, some critical things about, the language learning space is very intimate, right? I mean, the first things that you learn in a language is how to talk about yourself, how to ask others about themselves, and how to communicate some very basic but very critical needs. And you will come out of that 4 weeks, even if you've never studied Arabic at all, even if you never study it again, being able to do that in a Moroccan context. And I think that's pretty great, and also fairly, really a unique experience. And that will absolutely deepen that relationship with the host community.
As we've heard today, this programme is an immersive journey through the histories, politics and lived realities that shape migration across 2 continents. By experiencing Spain and Morocco side by side, students confront the complexities of borders, labour and identity in ways that no textbook alone can provide. From classroom discussions to conversations with NGOs, from exploring cultural traditions, to engaging with the challenges of displacement and belonging, the programme offers a rare opportunity to connect academic theory with lived experience. And for those who choose the Arabic extension, the journey goes even deeper, adding language and cultural fluency to their toolkit for understanding this vital global issue. Whether you're a student considering the programme, or an educator curious about interdisciplinary approaches, or simply someone interested in the global dynamics of migration, we hope today's conversation has offered insight into the power of learning across borders. To learn more about this programme and our work in providing study abroad education, visit our website www.fie.org.uk. And if you've enjoyed this episode, check out our others wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. FIE provides life-changing study abroad experiences in the UK, Ireland and Spain. As a non-profit educational organisation, we are passionately invested in making a difference for our students as the future global leaders of tomorrow and the field of international education as a whole. The FIE podcast is a creative and academic space for exploring everything, the people, the places and opportunities that make your experience so valuable and exciting.
FIE. We're here to help you
Unlock a wider
brighter future.